She was actually on the Puerto Rico national soccer team before she just yeah, it's pretty nuts.
And look, getting invited back to Coachella, we're talking about one of the biggest festival stages that exist.
Like I remember when she was first coming up around like 2010, 2011. It was when like Tumblr was super popular.
Rolling Stone placed Del Rey on their list of the 200 greatest singers of all time in 2023. And Rolling Stone UK named her the greatest American songwriter of the 21st century.
Wow. Just to give you an idea of how crazy his views and streams are, he was averaging something like 120 million views on YouTube per month in 2021. You kind of know you made it when you're on the Coachella lineup. Everyone gets like notes.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that's right. Yeah, it's such a big clout thing, right?
Yeah,
like saying that you got onto the Coachella lineup, even if you're not a headliner, I feel like is
for sure.
Like when you look at the list, even names that aren't headliners are still like big names.
Yeah. You know? And also it's like I feel like it's huge for smaller artists just being in that environment, like the artist grounds, like behind the scenes, being able to chop it up and like meet other bigger artists than you for the first time. Like I feel like a lot of actual collaborations come about because of these big festivals when artists are like first time and like then they like, you know, get their info, maybe record something. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that whole culture of like having a mishmash of artists from all over the world. And Coachella this year, right, is like we were looking at the list and it's like, wow, there's people from Japan, China, Mexico, like South America generally. Like there's a bunch of French artists. Like there's like people from all over.
Yeah, it's super global. I think that's a testament to like just we talked about it before, how global like streaming has really opened the lens for artists from like any country to have a Spotify, you know, top 40 daily songs.
J Balvin. J Balvin's one of the headliners.
Yeah.
We talked about him before and like he's like the head of the Billions Club, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. For any new viewers today, we're just going to be doing a really casual episode. We usually talk about individual listings that are up on our platform, Royalty Exchange, but since Coachella is this weekend and next, hopefully this video comes out sometime next week. So anyone going that's checking this video out can get some of our top picks of who you should see. So yeah, we're just going to be kind of talking about what artists we're excited about that if we were going, we would definitely want to see.
Yeah. Headliners are always good. J Balvin, you know, like for me, my two picks, because I got two, are Lana Del Rey and then DJ Snake.
Nice.
So a couple reasons for both of them. And also to my own bias, because we've sold parts of both their catalogs on Royalty Exchange, so like that also helps. But DJ Snake, we're talking about collaborations that come out. He's like one of those global collaborators, like David Guetta is. You know, like I feel like he's done some kind of huge hit with like every major electronic artist today. You know, like his stuff with Flume, I love, which that's part of the catalog that we sold.
Yeah.
And he's not even considered one of the headliners. He's just one of the bigger acts for Coachella, which kind of lends credit to the scale of that festival. But like, he's a French DJ, and he's all over the place globally, all over the place in the US, puts out awesome music, chronic hit maker, you know, like that. He would be top of my list for sure. And then Lana Del Rey, New York girl. I'm from New York, so like that's my jam. What Billboard or Rolling Stones has her as like one of the top 200 best vocalists of all time. I had the stat here somewhere.
That's a pretty big accolade right there,
right?
To be on any Rolling Stone best of all time list, I feel like you earn your stripes when you see your name on there for sure.
Yeah. Rolling Stone placed Del Rey on their list of the 200 greatest singers of all time in 2023. And Rolling Stone UK named her the greatest American songwriter of the 21st century.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, high praise and well-deserved. I mean, she definitely has like one of the most unique sounds in all of music, I feel like.
For sure.
Her songs, it's almost creates like this ambiance that no artist really can like replicate. Like it really lives in its own little world.
Yeah, like, it's like its own like musical world, like Billie Eilish is now, right?
Yeah.
Except like where Billie Eilish is kind of like nightmare dark.
Mm-hmm.
Lana Del Rey is kind of like whimsical and fantastical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because like her whole mood is like, you know, emotional, love loss,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. It's really moody and like there's a certain aesthetic with it too. Like I remember when she was first coming up around like 2010, 2011. It was when like Tumblr was super popular. And she was like the core like aesthetic of Tumblr, like black and white photos, like some like interesting like old timey like Instagram filters, just like all that creative stuff that really kind of gained momentum and like got her like a super big audience. It's kind of funny. Yeah. I see a lot of when I'm like looking at new artists on Spotify. I see a lot of her like unreleased songs on Spotify through like random artist profiles.
Really?
I don't know if that's like her strategy, like part of her team, and they're like collecting payments on that, or like if people are just uploading her stuff. But I think she gets leaked a lot, which kind of sucks, but also kind of adds to like the mystique of it too, because people are always like checking for new music from her, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And her voice is so beautiful too that it's like I feel like she gets sampled all the time.
For sure.
Like some soundbite from some track she did getting remixed or whatever, or like weeks like this. It's just like her voice is such a coveted sound.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so like that's why like when we sold two of her different albums. One was Honeymoon.
Nice.
The other one was Lust for Life. Two great albums.
Okay. Yeah.
But like they did great. Of course they did, right? Like those albums are awesome, and she's an awesome artist. And she's of course gonna be one of those major artists at Coachella because she's like DJ Snake.
Yeah.
U.S. sensation, global sensation. Like she's an artist who does world tours. You know.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think going back to like the listings also, it's an exciting thing to pick up as an investor just because her music is so timeless. Like she has a really short voice that can kind of span generations. So like someone that's 60 or 70 years old could love her music just as much as someone who's like 14. And like I think like all her projects are going to have a ton of longevity because of that. Yeah, it's not really like gimmicky at all like a lot of artists today.
For sure.
I think a cool thing too is like we talked about the Rolling Stones list. It's awesome to see a lot of her music get like the love from critics and publications, but she's so well respected in the artist and creative community too. And I think that in itself is like such a big stamp of approval for artists, especially when they're first starting out, getting like cosigns from other artists who like their stuff.
Yeah.
Like she's featured on the Weeknd's albums a few times.
Yeah.
She was doing songs like A$AP Rocky back in the day. There's a ton of other ones too that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm sure in like interviews and stuff, I think Billie Eilish actually said she's like a huge influence of her. So like artists that were like before her respecting her craft, and then artists coming up after her being influenced by her is like huge.
Yeah, and she's been in the game forever too. I mean, I think her first album came out in like 2005, so she's been releasing content and relevant for 20 years. Like, yeah, she's unreal.
She's gonna be one of those that can play like a Vegas residency when she's like 70 years old too.
Yeah.
One of the artists that I want to talk about is Lil Uzi Vert.
Oh yeah.
Uzi's like definitely one of the poster childs of the SoundCloud era from like 2012 to 2016.
And we've talked about a couple of them.
Yeah. Him and Playboi Carti were kind of the last ones to really take it to the next level and like get a step above the underground. His stuff is super mainstream now, obviously. He's had countless Billboard #1 albums, tons of Billboard top 10, top 20 singles. And I've seen him in concert before, actually at Coachella, the first time he played in 2016. It was right after he dropped his first big project. And the energy at that show was just so nuts. So like I know he's going to put on a killer performance, and being at like a bigger stage today than he was back then, it's just the energy is just insane. And one thing I like about his performance more than a lot of the other like quote unquote post Travis Scott rap performers, because I feel like Travis Scott really was the first one to bring back like the insane clown posse and like Limp Bizkit kind of like mosh pit energy in rap music. A lot of those artists that are doing that same sort of thing at shows, you're not really getting a lot of solid vocal performance out of them. They're kind of just screaming and like will drop the occasional line like in each song, and they're kind of just jumping around the stage. And fans that are fans that are in the mix kind of like that. They don't really care. But Uzi's hitting like every line, and like even though he uses a lot of autotune, like his vocal performance from when I've seen him has been really solid. So I think that he'd be a really good one to see too. And
and look, getting invited back to Coachella.
Yeah,
you know, like again, we're talking about one of the biggest festival stages that exist. You know, and if you're a repeat headliner, like that's pretty much everything that you need to know about the size and reach of the artist, right? Like,
yeah,
it says a lot.
Yeah, I think his song "EXO Tour Life" was his big like breakout hit. That took him to the next level in 2016. Came out right around then. It was probably Billboard like top 10. So he had a big crowd for the time he played at that show. And he actually brought out Playboi Carti at that show, which was pretty cool because Carti was just about to release his first mixtape. And he had probably the most hype out of any new rapper I've seen in like years. And they had a song together, and people got so excited when he came out. And we have a listing on Royalty Exchange. It's actually one of my favorite ones that I've seen on the site, where someone bought the royalties to Uzi songs and Carti songs. It was only a 10-year deal, but the returns on it have been nuts. So I did like a little breakdown, and the person paid $240,000 for the rights to some of the songs, which include huge hits like Shoota from Playboi Carti's album, Money Longer from Uzi, just a ton of Uzi hits from his first like 3 or 4 projects. They paid $240K in the end of 2019. So they've only been earning for about 4 years. So they still have 6 years to go. And they've already recouped their initial investment. Generating about $60K a year. So if it keeps up that pace, they're going to be netting about like $400,000 in profit after 10 years. Which is
that's not bad.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid return.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and all the songs have a lot of longevity too on streaming because they're in huge playlists on Spotify. They're like the core of Uzi and Carti's discography. So fans of both of those artists who have huge fan bases are always going to be listening to them. So it's definitely one of the better listings I've seen on the site.
Yeah, and again, we talk about like longevity, right? And Lil Uzi Vert, again, being asked to come back to Coachella years later, putting up bigger numbers than before, you know, like that's telltale signs of longevity, you know?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's just all the things that we like to see.
Yeah. So my next artist, I want to ask you if you've ever heard of this guy. His name's Bizarrap. What do you know about Bizarrap?
I don't know anything about Bizarrap.
It's pretty crazy because I kind of want to make a long form video about him just because I think he's the biggest producer in the world that people don't know about, just because he's from Argentina. So the US audience that isn't familiar with Latin music like that doesn't really know who he is. But basically this dude started out doing remixes on SoundCloud of like Bad Bunny, J Balvin songs, things like that. And then back in, I think it was 2018, he started this YouTube series where he does freestyle sessions just in his home studio. It's like a super simple setup, like 2 cameras. He's producing the beat. And it started off with him and like his artist friends who weren't very big at the time. But now it's evolved into him working with like some of the biggest artists in the world. And I think he puts out about one of these every 6 weeks or so. It's always on a Wednesday. And the views and streams on these songs are just absolutely insane. And I think the reason is because he creates this element for artists where he's an extremely gifted producer himself. Like his sound is incredible. It's actually funny you bring up Flume because he said that one of his biggest influences is Flume. So he has a lot of like electronic elements in like his melodies, but a lot of the music he makes is like more trap. So it's like kind of rap centric, but he can go in so many different directions. And he's always creating like a perfect backdrop to match whatever artist he's working with's music. And so his versatility is insane. And
he's at Coachella.
Yeah. So he's going to be doing like a DJ set, but he's like a producer. But cool. If you look him up on YouTube, just to give you an idea of how crazy his views and streams are, he was averaging something like 120 million views on YouTube per month in 2021. And some of his biggest months have been over 600 million views on his channel. And he has over 40 million monthly listeners on Spotify. And so he's crossing all these different platforms. And even like he did a session with Shakira. And I think that one has over 1 billion streams across all platforms. It did over 140 million views on YouTube in the first week. And it was the number one song on global Spotify for like weeks at a time, getting like 6-7 million streams a day. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like his audience is just so giant. And every time he posts one of those sessions on YouTube, it's like the simplest setup, like not a lot of production at all. I think they probably use like GoPros, honestly. Like it's nuts. And they get tens of millions of views in like the first day. So his influence is pretty crazy. And the fact that he can work with artists like Shakira now is just a testament to how successful that series has been. And I think like because he's a producer, it'll be exciting to see who he brings out at that performance.
Yeah, and there's going to be so many artists available to be with him, right?
He's done like over 40 sessions, and then he's done like production on other big artists, you know, their own albums. So it's going to be like a who's who of like the Latin music scene.
Oh,
and,
that's
like,
awesome.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Shakira come out. And we have like 3 different Shakira listings on Royalty Exchange too. And like, obviously not much needs to be said about her. Like she's a global icon. Like,
yeah, those ones do gangbusters.
Decades of timeless music, huge hits. Did the freaking FIFA World Cup anthem in like 06. That's just like a timeless song in itself. So she is like such a global appeal. And then another Latin artist I want to talk about too, kind of going off the Bizarrap, this artist named Young Miko. I'll just talk about her a little bit. She's kind of like the hottest name in Latin music right now. She's from Puerto Rico. And she's only been making music since 2021, but she has over 28 million monthly listeners on Spotify now in that short time period. She was actually on the Puerto Rico national soccer team before she just, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Puerto Rico national soccer team to tattoo artist to musician. That was her career trajectory. So,
wow.
But her music's pretty sick, and she just dropped her debut album a couple of weeks ago, and it's pretty awesome front to back. She's like a really deep voice for a female, which is like kind of unique, like in the rap scene. And she's just gone on this crazy trajectory since then. And she was the second to most recent Bizarrap session. And that one did crazy gangbuster numbers too. Like I think it has close to 200 million streams on Spotify already in just a few months. So I think that she'll probably come out during his set, and she has her own set. So I think that one would be a must watch too. And then a few more I would recommend. Definitely Nav. Nav is like another big rapper producer. He's from Canada. He comes from India descent. So he's, putting on a ton for the culture in the US with how mainstream he's become. He's in that like The Weeknd, 21 Savage, Uzi, Travis Scott camp. But he has a ton of huge collaborations with the who's who of like the A-list rappers these days. He actually started off as a producer. So one of his big songs that kind of gained him acclaim was Drake's Back to Back, the Meek Mill diss back in 2015. And then his first big song as a solo artist was called Myself, and it blew up like crazy on SoundCloud. Got him signed to the Weeknd's label. So he has a ton of experience as an artist, with countless Billboard top 40 hits, platinum hits, Billboard #1 albums. And he's toured with The Weeknd in arenas before. So he definitely has like a solid stage presence and like the ability to put on an insanely good show, playing to like a huge audience. So I would definitely recommend checking him out too.
Awesome. So you said that he brings in a lot of like the Indian sound to what he's doing. Is that right?
No, not really. No, it's more just like, the main like trap and then like melodic rap stuff too. But okay. He's like the only Indian rapper I can think of in like the mainstream US audience. So he's like putting on for the culture, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And yeah, we have a few listings of Nav songs also on Royalty Exchange. And I think we actually have Drake's Back to Back song. So those are like some good ones you should check out too.
Yeah. And with the festival happening and these songs getting played, I mean, like that translates to revenue too.
Yeah.
So, and with such a big stage like Coachella, there's a ton of discovery that happens with people going to those festivals. So it does great for the underlying streaming numbers too. Stuff just steadily rises. People find these artists after they see them live and just add them to their playlists. See it happen all the time.
Yeah. Even like I've seen instances where like fan videos of performances will blow up on social media. Like I remember there was like a Post Malone live acoustic performance of, I forget which song it was, but it was from his it was the song I Fall Apart. Over 1 billion streams on that song now. Wasn't even moving like anything, but then this one video sparked incredible momentum. It was like 2 years after the release of the album. So like with any of these artists, you never know, and like a user generated content video could just fly and shoot up a song that hasn't really been performing before into like a new stratosphere, which is pretty cool.
Again, like Coachella is a big stage. Someone puts on an awesome show there, it's going to get a lot of traction way beyond just the festival, Yeah. Like, and this is the kind of thing where it's like, oh, they put on this awesome performance at this huge festival and people talk about that for a year, and that generates more attention for the catalog. This is why we always say, hey, like, don't write off live performances and like an artist activity when you're considering a royalty asset. Like it can have really serious impacts to the bottom line. It can really, really like inject cash into the royalties, just from people streaming it, from discovering it, like you said, from user generated content. Someone makes a TikTok about the song that they saw at Coachella, or maybe some big like TikTok influencer or something like does a video during one of the songs, right? Like something like that. So there's 1,000 ways that it can take off.
Yeah, that's so true.
Kind of like,
Coachella, we were talking about at the beginning, is like the influencer stomping ground of music festivals.
Right. Yeah.
Like just non-music related activity going on, people just posting like pictures and whatnot. But one of like the big influencers could, do some sort of vlog style video and be like, oh, I saw Nav, I saw Uzi, and then people are going to check out their music just from that too.
Right. The ripple effect, man. The ripple effect.
Exactly. Well, cool, John. Thanks for breaking down some of your top picks, man. I wish I could be there in the desert this weekend. It's going to be a great time, but
yeah, maybe we'll do a post review of some of the acts and see how it does.
Sounds good, man. Thank you all for checking out this video. We're Royalty Exchange. You can see some live listings of music catalogs that you could purchase right now on our website. And if you have any questions, let us know in the comments. Check us out on all socials for new upcoming listings. And we'll see you all in the next video.